You won't need it to stay warm. You're so afraid of my affections. You could drown in your own storm. There's no need for reservation. No one else can see. After some examination, man, I think that you've got what I need. It's really alright. It's really alright. It's really alright if you don't love me. What's that look of consternation? I'm completely in control. So if you're thinking of evasion, there's something you should know. Well, I wouldn't say I own you, but you're a lover without liberty. Which would you rather face, that cold-hearted landscape or me? What's that look of consternation? I'm completely in control. So if you're thinking of evasion, there's something you should know. Well, I wouldn't say I own you, but you're a lover without liberty. Which would you rather face, that cold-hearted landscape or me?
Okay, hello darlings, we are live again. I've got a fresh cup of hot tea. I've got unfinished business. I've got a delivery. Hello there, get ready to grab the door. Hold on, a little buzzy in. And voila. I am getting a vitamin pill delivered. Okay, so we are on the pre-weekend. Happy pre-weekend. It is Friday. I will shortly have to open the door. And I've been trying to bring this up so I could leave a note here. I'm going to have to start doing like, be right back, and put that out. I'll be right back. Oh, thank you. that's strange. Make sure this is mine. Okay. Now I have to look and make sure that's actually mine. I was expecting a hard bottle of pills. That's so squashy. Oh! Yay! So I'm going to get another delivery in a second. Let's sum it again.
Perfect time.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Have a
Have a
great
good
week.
evening.
Take care. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Okay. That's a little more like it. Oh, that's great. That means I might not have to be concerned about being disrupted the rest of the weekend. I am trying these socks for the first time. They came in a set of 6 through my health care insurance people. And I needed compression socks, but for some reason, these are they're my size, but they were super cheap, which makes you a little worried, but because I was looking at their site, there was no review. Now I know how they're used and all that. So my guess is, when I was looking at them, is that people did not want them because they come in all these colors. What I was trying to replace were just my plain old black socks or beige. But I got 6 pairs, and every one of them is a bright color. So I guess they are kind of long. I will find out. I had to use the credit. You know, one of those use it or lose it. You have 1 month at the end of the month. At midnight on the last day of the month, your money, or if any is remaining, turns into a pumpkin. And that will not fit into any vending machine. So this is, wow, I never saw that bit before. So today I was learning more about recycling, a subject a lot of people just go, oh. And I hope they're learning more. I understand why. It's like a losing battle because there's no incentive for anybody to recycle. Nobody wants to use recycled plastics because they can get the virgin material for a fraction of the price. I mean, they're just about giving it away. There's so much of it, and that is a problem. It needs to be used. Or actually, the gas that makes it has to be burned off in what they call flares. But there's limits on those too, because there can be a problem environmentally. But even worse is just letting the gas into the atmosphere. So we've got all these challenges, but they recommend now, when you use something that's plastic, try to reuse it as much as possible. Upuse it. Make something out of it. Don't just automatically throw it into the recycle bin. If there's more you can do with it, is basically the message, because there's really no incentive for any company to break them all down. There's too many problems with pollution. You can't get a nice bright white copy paper out of a piece of, a recycled cardboard. So there's and the recycling thing, it's also a strength thing. Oh, I see there's somebody talking. Where's my phone? Jessica, hi. I needed anything. Why Jessica? Just pinned. Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I actually need these socks. Oh, not these specifically. I'm not sure how they're going to work out. They were the smallest ones available, and looks like they might not be able to offer me enough stretch or support because I have very skinny legs. So I don't know. Well, I'll find out tomorrow when I try a pair on. I always wash things before, but I've got I got the 6 pair, and there really wasn't another option. The other option, I think, was something similar but in extra large or extra wide or something like that. We definitely don't want those. Just fall right off me. So, yeah, just looking at all this stuff, there's my phone. All right. I've been trying to get here so I could chat, and it just like won't load the page for me as if I want to watch my own show so that I can chat with you. I will try a different way. I'll search myself. Great news, you got deliveries. I got 2 deliveries right on top of the other, so I am not complaining. Koi Kol Me Galen. Okay, now we're finally here. Yay! I like ones with cute pictures. What was the subject again? Oh, socks? Now see, I would like those too. And really the only thing limiting me right now with socks is they have to be compression socks. And I got some from Walmart when I actually picked them out myself. And they had patterns on them. One had these flower patterns. So I put them on, but I noticed like they were fuzzy inside. And the way they milled them, the inside is showing you the fabric pattern, like the flowers. When I took those socks off, everything was so imprinted in my skin. It was over an hour before my skin was not showing the flower marks. Not a good thing. Yeah, see, the ones that I've actually, I never thought I would like them, but they've turned out to be the best so far. Were $16 a pair, and they were actually MedX or something like that, and they were sold at Walmart. And they came in, I think, 3 sizes and a couple different strengths, I guess, like medium, compression, and etc. And my doctor just told me use the medium. And they also said they weren't sure if I should bother with the graduated compression. I guess that's more for people who are on their feet, like in an office, running around at a doctor's office. It was a dermatologist who turned me on to that. You'd think a heart doctor would. I might not have had a heart doctor back then. I had capillariitis all of a sudden, just like burst out. And I thought it was a reaction from sun exposure, that I had just one little bits of my body, my feet, and like this far up from my ankles. Like, you know, if like wearing ballet slippers and tights, and the tights don't come down all the way. Well, that area is where on both legs, identically. I thought, because I was on the front porch watching the sun go down, and that was like this blaze of sun, just like was angled through the trees, and it just hit us on the front porch, and I could actually feel my legs at that area get hot all of a sudden, like a and it turned out that was a bunch of capillaries exploding, and red rash all of a sudden, and I was just like, oh my god. Well, I showed my cancer doctor that, and he was like, I don't think it's the medicine. He knew I wanted to get off the medicine, so I'm always looking for an excuse to get off it, but I can't. at least not at the moment. But the dermatologist said that's capillaritis, and that's the bursting of your little capillaries, the surface ones, and that's going to take a long time to get out of your skin because it's basically now iron deposits from the dead cells. Like, what? So she recommended massaging and with moisturizer, a lot of moisturizer and compression socks. So I haven't had any worsening. It hasn't happened again, and it's been years now, but that was a freaky, because like, I was so aware of what was happening, but not thinking it was what it was. Hello, Gary. I am sitting in the what? In the sun. Okay. I hope it feels good. Well, I never heard of capillaritis, and it was quite the shock. But yeah, she said everybody in the dermatology office was wearing compression socks, and she showed me hers, and they weren't like fun, but they had like stripes or something on them. It was like, oh well, that's not bad. You can't tell they're like my grandmother's stuff, you know. Oh, he's down in Georgia. Oh, 59. Well, if you're sitting in the sun, are you in your car? Usually down south, people thought 59 was kind of chilly. Kind of like Southern California. 65 was like, put a sweater on to walk across the street and an umbrella if it's sprinkling. It, actually, I'm not sure what it is right now. I will let you know. It was 21 this morning. Oh, it's 31 now. Wintry mix likely tomorrow. Oh, I'm so glad I'm not going anywhere. Thanks for letting me know what I just got from you guys. Nice, nice. Well, the store where you've been working was pretty sweltering for months with their cheapness with the air conditioning and lying, saying it's controlled by headquarters. It's like, no, headquarters tells you what you're supposed to set it on, but unless it's a brand new store. Anyway, I colored with the old ladies today. I started that snowflake mandala, and I was correct. It came from our little Joyce. Joyce has macular degeneration, and of all the things that she has suffered, like, this is her last thing. She just sits every day downstairs and colors. But now she needs a magnifying glass, and she has had to go from highly detailed stuff to big surfaces because she can't see out of the center of the eye. So I really feel for her. These pencils, I have to say, I don't know what kind of wood they are using in these overseas pencils, but they suck. Although the lead, I would say the pigment is very much like Prismacolor, which is high-end. I would say reasonably high-end. I think there's something even better than Prismacolor, but I'm not really into colored pencil very much. It was the top of the line at the time I was selling them, but that was in the 80s. But the wood makes all the difference. If you can't get a good point on it, and if this is shaving, it's not even cutting the wood. It's more like grinding it away. You really have to push on that to get see, it's splintering. This is one from my set one of my friends at the coloring table happened to have the same one, and she took it out of her collection. She had a duplicate and gave it to me. So that's in the set, and this is here with me playing with it. Wonderful, that's the least they should do. Oh, right. Well, Jessica, the good thing is, if you are getting your eyes checked once a year, they can catch it faster and treat it faster. I have been working on that. My friend is 80, 83, 85, somewhere in there. She has been getting injections, and you only get so many of them, but she has had improvement. So it was already moving pretty fast by the time she was discovered. So yeah, if you notice any change in your eyes, your vision, but it doesn't have to be hereditary. I know I have something they call latticing, and that is the retina kind of stretching. I found that out when I was trying to figure out, it turned out what I had was ocular migraines. I know how to treat them myself now, but I was freaked out down south, suddenly having auras, and mind you, because of the business I was in, auras were starting to, mean something more than a physical thing. But in this case, it was just physical. It's a form of migraine, with or without the headache part. And when I went to the eye doctors, who are the actual doctors, they did all these looking at me and testing and identifying the auras. They have a chart for the kind of auras that we see, and mine was right there. So I have to do the glasses thing, Gary, and my insurance covers the frames. As it turns out, they always give me more money for frames than I need, but my lenses cost a bloody fortune. So when I get glasses, I'm looking at least $300 going on my care credit card. So I've been dragging it out this time. Okay. This, Gary, you might recognize, because I was teaching from this book, or talking about this book, 18 years ago. Now, what this is, if you haven't heard of it, Journey of Souls. This guy was a hypnotherapist working with people who are suffering from drug addictions, mostly drug addictions. I think he might have also been working with people suffering with morbid obesity, or like addictions to food, not a medical reason for it other than being addicted. But now they know more about fat cells and how they get hungry, and it's not willpower alone. They know that helps people lose weight. There are physical issues with fat cells themselves. So he mostly was caught up in the world of drug addicts and treating them and trying to get deeper into their minds to find ways to help them, like why you want this addiction kind of thing. Well, he had an accidental breakthrough with somebody, but they'd been going like hours, and I can't imagine any normal person doing that, what he did. 5 hours at a time. Basically, he turned them into channels for themselves, or channels of themselves. If you're familiar with Esther Hicks and her channeling Abraham, or Jane Roberts and her channeling of Seth, Bashar, I forget what his name, I forget his real name, but he channels an entity called Bashar. I'm a channel, but I don't do what these people do. We're all channels. If you just chill out, you'll hear your inner voice, you'll get your guidance, you know you're connected, you get more of a sense of your immortality. It's lovely to be connected. But anyway, these are people who got hypnotized so deeply, they were talking about who they were when they're not human. And these are stories, of course, with permission, that he chose to illustrate various things that he came across in all of the explorations. So when I started reading it, someone had recommended it to me. And as soon as I started, it's like, I know all this. I know all of this already. And so but it did, there were places like, and, so if you're ready for this material, it's very enlightening and helps you understand that there is no death. But they do talk about the different ways people live or leave. And for those of us who have memories of coming and going. And I agree with you, Jessica. They don't do that. I wish they did, but I always like these frames are my favorite frames. These are the least expensive. I think they were $69. I love them. They're my favorites. I got some fancier ones that I wear outside because they're sunglasses. Those were the most expensive frames on the wall, and I think even those were only $149, designer frames. So our allowance this year went down by quite a bit, but still will cover the frames. So I'm not worried about that. No matter what I do, I'm screwed. If I need new glasses, I have to put it on my card. But I'm okay with that. I pay it off. I've got room there. So yeah, as long as everything doesn't completely fall apart, then I'll be okay for the next few months anyway. I mean, financially and all that. So anyway, 18 years ago when I was talking about this, I was recommending it to people who were afraid of dying, or especially if they had lost somebody and they were, grieving. Well, I was already doing my show, I believe. Let's see, my father visited in 1999. And Gary, when did I start the show? I started, I've got recordings from 2007 on YouTube. I think we go that far back, but those were already old. Yeah, I was already broadcasting. Definitely. Because when my father came to tell me, well, he came to tell me a lot of things, but one of the biggest things was that we don't die and that he wasn't dead, which was, of course, a very joyful time. And I was given a knowing rather than a hoping. And I wish I could give that to everybody. And I said, Dad, so is that why you came? So I'm supposed to tell everybody that we don't die? And he said, you don't tell anybody. I said, well, it wouldn't be wonderful if people weren't afraid. He said, it doesn't. Everybody's got their own thing. And the moment they die, they know they're not dead. You don't have to tell anyone. So that is a bit of comfort, that no matter how screwed up you think your life is, or might be your whatever, it's when it comes to the end, it's not the end of you. It's the end of this persona. It's the end of this timeline for you. But also, that's when you drop your history. And you're called back through love. You don't go anywhere, actually. So, but what we are without our bodies, I don't want to make it sound so good like everybody wants to go and kill themselves so they can experience it, because that's not the point. When I saw my father, and I didn't recognize him, and he told me he was my father, I assumed he was an angel or God or some representation of something divine, because not what it looked like, because it was very vague. It was what it felt like. The feeling of being in the presence of pure pure love and joy. I and as happy as I'd been, I was a very happily married person at the time, living my idyllic life in the country with 5 dogs and 3 cats. So life was great as far as I was concerned. It wasn't like that. It was a much deeper. It felt holy, and as he expressed everything through vibration, because he didn't have a mouth, the love. It was the love, it was an understanding, it was understandings that were being transfused. But, since then, I've watched people cross over. I've watched dogs, cats. When Cotton crossed over 3 years after moving to the farm, that was the first time I ever saw a dog rise from themselves and become aware that I was aware. I mean, it was an amazing, and that was before my father. That was before my father appeared. So that's my whole life has been like that. So for me, nothing like I'm talking about. I know many people are just going to be like, oh, she was a psychic. It's everybody. I'm no different. The only difference between me and some people is that I'm aware of my experiences. They started really early when I was left alone a lot and had the time to reflect and no distractions much of the time. So, I mean, I had things I had to do, but, little kids, you get ignored a lot when you're a little kid. And, yeah, I got to talk to God all the time. I was raised to believe you could. So I think right from the beginning, how well you do in the world is a lot of that, your relationship with yourself, your spirit, even the concept of spirit, all of that's going to depend what were you set up with to believe in. It's because I see people around me who have a great love of God, and also, unfortunately, a lot of terrible things, guilt for being who they are, denying what they are, even the suffering they bring into themselves because they have to stick to a belief that follows somebody else's standards or beliefs. So I find that I'm really happy being me, but I stopped expecting people to understand me years ago. Nobody's ever going to understand all of you, no matter who you are, no matter how much you love them, no matter how much they love you. You're always going to be unique. So nobody can know all of you while they're in a body. And once you're out of the body, that's when you experience each other on a much higher, different level. There's no bodies. So it's vibration. It's electrified light. There's just not enough human words. But when my dad was, I'd had enough, but the time was up. It just all worked out very well together, synchronistically, of course. I called an end to the meeting right moments before Glenn came back from a walk with the dogs. So I did not have my meeting with my father disrupted by anybody. The cats were asleep, the dogs were all out, the place was silent on the farm, and it was just wonderful. And no interruptions until it was like, okay, I don't think I could handle any more of this, Dad. And it's like, okay, well, we need to end the session. I'll always be near, just a thought away. And it was an experience I wish everybody could have, but it was exhausting. It was really, truly, at the same time that it was super exciting and electrifying, it was so electric that it's like when you're holding all of this tension in your body because you're like, zzz. It was, I think there's a word for that. The yogis try to achieve this state I think they call it, well, they use a snake to symbolize it, going up the whole spine. Begins with a K. Kundalini. That's like the Kundalini energy. Yeah, it fits that description, that experience of having a Kundalini experience. It was extremely energizing. But you could see that if you couldn't handle that, it could be debilitating. Even when people talked about in the Bible, well, I was brought up with you can't look upon the face of God because you'll burn up. Like, interesting analogy, like looking into the sun. That's why I think there was a lot of confusion about the sun being God. Oh, it was not an intervention. He didn't have to intervene. I wasn't dying. That's why I asked him first. Are you here to get me? Am I dying? Did I die? You know, like, okay, I accept and I believe that it's you, Dad. Why are you here? Because at that moment, my life was perfect. I was so completely at one with the universe, and that was why he was able to communicate on the level that he did, because I was already on that higher vibration. We can only, when we're not in our body, we can only like drop our vibes so much. It's not, I don't know, it's a strain, or we try not to interfere. I think that's really most of it. We don't want to interfere with people's outcomes. Well, that was a mythology that's existed all over the place. Just like the Adam and Eve thing, there are different origin stories, and we have them in common with other, well, from the Bible. Anyway, I'll if you're interested in knowing about biblical history, I'll send you information, but it's not important, because that was just 2,000 years ago, and we've been around for millions of years. We have not been at this level, of course, all that time, but yeah, we have been evolving. We've been evolving ourselves. The power behind us is the spirit we talk about, the God that we talk about. So, as Abraham describes it, it's like the source of all is the electricity, and we're the toaster. It's up to us to use the power that's given us. We're wired, but we're not the electricity itself. So when you get close to that electrical source, it's very exciting and very uplifting, and information is downloaded instantly, and hoping and guessing becomes knowing in different things. Before my father and I were done communing, there had been a healing over an incident that we experienced together as father-daughter, and why was that surprising? And then I had cosmic questions, and I had to phrase everything like, okay, given my human mind, what the human brain can understand, can you give me images of, etc.? So I had questions, and they weren't just for me. I wanted to know about that which we call God, the universe, and everything. Where are we from? Where are we? And that's why I love that postcard, because it was, when I found this postcard, it was like, oh my God, well, that's what Dad showed me. He was like, he showed me, well, what he showed me actually had more spirals, a lot of rings. And it was, the description that I was getting was imagining like each ring being a group of like minds. So when we think about heaven, for example, is there a heaven as described in the Quran or the Bible? And the short answer is no. But the long answer is sometimes, somewhere, for some. Everything is so, everything you've ever, everything that's ever been experienced is part of the whole. We are individual notes in a great symphony. So we can't always know where the notes are going, and we can't see the whole symphony. So it's good not to judge too harshly from where you're standing, because you can only hear so many notes from where you're standing. But it's huge, and just trust that we are making it sound beautiful. It's not random. We are consciousness. We're projections of consciousness. So if you're interested in pecking away a little bit at what it's like to be that individual harp string, you might find this very intriguing. Journey of Souls. It's an old book. It was such a good seller. I think pretty much every library around, unless you're in evangelical neighborhood, you might not find it. But it is I will say, uplifting. And as you read it, you'll remember things that you didn't remember. No, I'm not going to put it. You'll remember things that you never experienced with these eyes, but you know they're real. So he did a second book. A second book actually got me writing. After his last chapter, I felt he needed to hear something else, and so I wrote a letter to him. Of course, the man had millions of people writing, so I was not expecting any kind of a reply. But this is great. Oh, and you know what? That's right, placement. My father saw me. I saw my father before I got this book. I was kind of got into the book afterward. And right here, it's like energy colors. My father was not like pure white. He was a grayish white. There were red lights, there were yellow lights. There was a sense of who he was. He showed me the face that he had. Up to a point, it wasn't like a really distinct face that I knew him as, and just so for identification. But even though I believe he could have manifested into a more physical or denser form, I don't like those things. Some people can't wait to see a ghost, and I'm the other way. I'm like, don't. You know, my human does not like that. My human gets nervous at supernatural stuff. So you don't have to show off. I know you're there. I see you. I feel you. I hear you. No manifesting. So it was me having a conversation with an invisible man, you could say. Now, he's on my mind a lot right now because I shared a plaque that I was gifted after my father passed that has an excerpt from a speech that was entered into the congressional record from the mayor of New York in 1964, and to which he added my father's foreword of the Negro Heritage Library, which was his first encyclopedia. And it was not completed. It was not completed, and he moved on to do something else, but there were a lot of problems when people were doing things that they were not supposed to do, and he couldn't control it. So That company did not make it well for long enough for him to know what it was like to be a millionaire, and then back to rags. But anyway, I had that plaque, and with Dr. Martin Luther King Day coming up, I wanted to share it with our senior resident advisor. Esophagus. So I babbled on long enough, don't you think? Gary, do you remember the book? For all those years ago? The one I've been talking about for the last half hour? Journey of Souls. That's what I thought. Another one I worked with was Energy Medicine by Donna Aden. Was really good for mothers who wanted to soothe their children or raise them with fewer medications. They got vaccinated. She's not a conspiracy theorist kind of a person. But she had practical exercises, energy exercises, to help you with normal bodily functions that sometimes get out of hand. There's also, let's see, what else did we use like a textbook? A workbook for Barbara Brennan's energy healing class. The best book ever is the one that affects you in a good way. There is no best book ever. What do you think is the best book ever? I mean, Journey of Souls is one of the best books if you have questions about your soul and its growth, what it's like not being in a body. But I wouldn't go to it if I wanted to cook a new recipe. And my bubbelas sent me a beautiful cookbook for the holidays that also teaches you about everything in the kitchen. It's such an impressive volume. You can almost do it like a coffee table book, because you can't open anywhere without learning something about food besides just getting recipes and the tools you use in the kitchen. Just a great book. I think it's by somebody who may have a channel here on YouTube. Oh yes, don't believe everything you think. I can't remember the author, but that is definitely a good one. I'm a big fan of breaking the habit of being yourself and becoming supernatural, and You Are the Placebo. All three of those are Dr. Joe Dispenza. I also highly recommend, checking him out. He's really a good one for skeptics, because he was a skeptic and he healed himself after being paralyzed, being run over by a truck, and having a bunch of, I think, 6 vertebrae crushed. And he was paralyzed from the waist down, but he'd been a chiropractor, so he understood a bunch of physical basics. And he was convinced that he was not going to stay paralyzed, because he just couldn't live with the idea of being paralyzed. And he's in great shape. Ah, thank you, Gary. Well, I won't say Nomaris is the greatest book ever written, because it was my first book, and nobody's first book is, I love my book, don't get me wrong, but if I had to do it again, I would make some grammatical corrections. I wouldn't say it's the best, but I would have to say it's one of my favorite books. But before I write, when I get my voice back for the Nomaris series, I read Terry Pratchett. Because reading Terry Pratchett was where Nomaris began, in terms of the kind of world I wanted to create. He made Discworld. He wrote a whole bunch of books based on Discworld. Discworld was definitely unique. Literally a disc, a flat disc. There wasn't another side. It wasn't a globe. It was held in space. It was on the back of a turtle. It was like a brilliant thing. And there was no map. Even though we had distinct areas and towns, the whole thing could have been one huge city, really. Even though it was all broken down like a continent. He didn't want people drawing maps, because he wanted it to be able to shift with the imagination. And I, to some degree, did that with Nomaris. But when I had to lay out the lay of the land and have 12 dragons on a small planet, and they all like a lot of space, and they all like different environments, so I had to figure out 12, actually it was, a couple of them are kind of hooked up as couples, or just best buds, because they're so long-lived. We've got Mem and Hoggett, they're the guys, so the male dragons who are into horticulture, and we've got a couple of the female dragons who are into, I didn't focus very much on them, but they're usually like observing while they're munching nuts and seeds, and helping out if they're needed. But let's see, There's a couple that hang out in the desert. They're really into supporting the ziwis, which are birds. So they all have different environments, you know, different obsessions. That's the whole thing about dragons. They get obsessed with things. So actually the whole story begins with an obsession. So I did have to kind of create different places in my head. Actually, I had to make a map when I had them traveling through woods and over dangerous terrain, up a mountain, down the valley. So I did have to have, when I write the stories, I have a route, so I know, like, okay, it starts here, it ends here, and in this case it starts and ends in the same spot, which is convenient, but it's also just using a literary thing. It's a dramatic beginning, it's going to have a peaceful ending, similar to the beginning, but all the stuff that happens in the middle. I can't wait. I've been getting very excited about it. Wait a second. That's better. Same type of brush, but a little longer. I do not get to experience dramatic sunsets in my place. I get the sunrises though, but I have to go to the other side of the building to see the sun go down. Maybe a little more color there. Who wrote that, Jessica? And do you like being called Jessica or Jess? Jess or okay. I just, if I say Jess, I don't want to feel like I'm making it too familiar, you know, without permission. When my first ex-husband got in touch with me, I wasn't sure what to call him. By his Facebook name, which is just Tom, or I've known him all those years as Tommy. But also, he used to call me CC, and I used to call him TT. His initials, and CC was for Chipmunk Cheeks. Okay. Of course, I would not chat with my ex-husband and refer to myself as CC while he's married to somebody, not me, because that's just rude. But I don't know, I think about him and I just see a buddy, you know, an old friend. And because we were together for a while, it just feels normal and familiar to call him TT or Tommy. Oh, yes! Okay, I know that last name. I'm terrible with authors' names. Also, I stopped memorizing stuff. Now when I try to make a mental picture, it's usually about a scene to capture colors or shapes. And when it comes to anything I can look up later, my brain now just automatically goes, I can find that later. So, I mean, I know that even if I forget the author, if I remember enough of the title, I can track it down. Well, that's what I got used to being, you know. It was, yeah, I thought it was cute, and it was just an affectionate exchange, CC and TT, you know. But we were doing that, like, I don't know, that might have actually started before we got married. Just being pen pals. Like, he was a total deadhead. Excellent. I know exactly what you, when you feel that good about a book, it teaches you so much, you need to share it. It's been a while since I've done that. Well, I shared, like what I had earlier. When I first started doing the show, the number one point was to teach people how to be their own psychic, or at least not to spend their money on people who claimed to be psychics. And Jessica, actually, because one of the things that we're going to be talking about when we meet in person is what I learned from other people, and why I developed the plan that I have in mind. So it goes very much to the beginning when I was working online as a psychic. You know, so much a minute, you call, speak alive, did shows, did radio shows, we had our own station, blah, 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 we were out there. But the fraud, the scams, the outrageous taking advantage of people who were suffering grief and fear. When I found out what was going on, I could not remain in the business. I had to not just quit, I had to start teaching people. This is what is going on behind the scenes. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry that feeds on people's ignorance and fear and grief. So I was like the anti-psychic. Like, yes, we're intuitive. Yes, I can show you how smart and wonderful you really are, and why you shouldn't be paying someone else to burn a candle for an hour at $4.99 a minute. But I learned about people's irrational beliefs. I think that was the most upsetting and astounding discovery, was some of the really crazy things that people are willing to believe are true, even if it makes them suffer. I thought the Bible was enough. This goes way beyond. Way beyond. A thought is only a thought. A belief is a thought that keeps being repeated. And it doesn't make it right. That's the kind of teaching we need in school. We should start very young. And games people play. Learning how to have healthy communication. I mean, sitting with the old ladies talking about past guilt and shame, it's like, oh my God, you know, because people do, well, a lot of people have kids before they grow up, right? So they're still experimenting, still learning, they're still fucked up, and then they have a kid, and then they feel bad because they couldn't be a decent parent, and then the kid grew up with some problems, and they take responsibility for them, and the cycle is just like ridiculous. And they, you know, it's bad enough that you have to go through the experience, but then to go years and years punishing yourself for what you can't change. We're trained to keep ourselves down that way. Yes, but when you have no examples of people working out relationships, problem resolving, if you have parents that run away from each other when they're mad, or set each other up, or there's passive aggression, those are not examples for getting along with other people. And what you don't learn at home, it's really hard to just come out of nowhere. Like, where do you get the resources as a young person for effective communication with a partner? How do you pick a mate? You know, it's like the first ones, it's kind of like when they talk about the pancakes. First one is a loser. First marriage is, you know, a practice. And I do believe that. The first one's a practice run. You don't even know what marriage is supposed to be like. You have all these weird expectations or none. And your training is only what you've witnessed growing up, which could be good or really horrible. We need classes. We used to have some parenting classes, but they didn't go very far. My second marriage definitely suffered communication breakdowns. My husband was a narcissist, and he could not talk about anything that might make him look bad, or like he had to make a change in his behavior, or an attitude adjustment. You know, there was no way. So even down to the point of, like, I tried to make an appointment. Like, all right, are you gonna be free tonight or tomorrow? We can set it up. We need to talk. You know, yeah, there was nothing. And looking at books on preventing divorce, that kind of thing, it all comes down to communication. Are we something now? That's wonderful. I can't see that, Maui. Are we live now? Well, on one level, yes, we are. But we're on my regular cameras, not my phone. I found something to look for on my phone, but apparently when I check this, I have to get some video editing program on my phone so I can find the settings of my phone and YouTube. Also, my phone got an update on Christmas Day. The phone itself did, from Samsung. I don't know if that is one of the things, because it was just around Christmas that it became impossible to make these live videos on the phone. That's wonderful, Jess. That's absolutely wonderful. It's the most important thing, and if you don't get them when they're young, forget it. That's like the exercise bingo thing that they tried. They did get 7 people to go, but there was 18 that started, and half of us were like, this is insulting to our intelligence, and this probably would be better for people who really don't move their bodies at all, or people in nursing homes and are stuck in bed most of the time. This is no. And it was boring and also incorrect scientific information, which right away you lose me there. You have to have the right age group to teach certain kinds of things. I mean, you can learn at any age. It doesn't matter how old you are, you can learn more. But teaching people emotional stuff, yeah, that's got to start early. Because everything is learned by what they see. I said the best sermon is a good example. Totally true. I am going to say you have a lot of patience working with children that young. Because I know the personalities get set very early. I mean, I was incorrigible at 3. Okay, maybe not incorrigible. I had my own mind. And I expressed it. Nobody in my family was good at any kind of problem resolution. Excuse me. I spent a lot of time my first 4 years with my grandparents, and they hated each other's guts. And they were always yelling at each other, because no matter what they talked about, it always ended up in divorce talk. That's wonderful. I worked with a couple of problematic second grade boys when I was in 8th grade with an experimental program just for a year. It was really educational, but it was on it was supposed to be an experiment that came over from Israel on peer teaching, because they felt that with these children that were hard to reach or having behavioral disruptions in their classes, that they might take instruction better if it came from someone closer to their age and not seen as one of their parents. So I ended up with 2 kids instead of 1, because one of the junior teachers dropped out. But one of the first one I got, oh man, all you had to do was meet his parents once and you would understand everything about this kid, and you'd want to whisk him away to a sane surrounding. See, he was a very bad, very foul-mouthed second grader. I mean, foul-mouthed second grader. I never heard a child talk the way this little bastard did. And it was really jolting, even to me as an 8th grader. I was not used to that kind of language. And that's how his parents spoke to each other. That's how they spoke with the teacher when they had to come in about the kid. And that's how they spoke to the kid. It was just frightening. Of course, I have no idea how he turned out, but I have to say that it was a perfectly nice little boy when that could come through. But he had to go home to that shit every night. So I don't know. I don't even know if we got to know their last names, because there was a level of anonymity involved, so people didn't feel like they were being spied on, I guess. I don't know. Oh yeah, I'm sure. It's like, how can anybody treat their child like that? But we know it happens. I mean, that's why we have a problem with sex trafficking with children. They're not seen as children. They're seen as property. They're treated like dogs. Um, it's an ownership thing. So, yeah. So all we can do is do the best we can for ourselves and teach whatever we can. Yeah, if you have a few years in, yeah, you get to see a lot. You get to see a lot. That 1 year was enough for me. I mean, I would have volunteered again. Oh, actually, at that age, I had my own stuff I had to handle. Um, but had I had a normal life, I would have loved to do that. It is. It is. It's one of the reasons I chose not to have children. I was afraid I would turn out like my mother. And I didn't want to take that chance. And looking back, I can say, no, I wouldn't have been exactly like my mother. Definitely not. But I could have been worse than the other way. I would probably have been so paranoid about life at that young age, when a lot of people get pregnant. I would have suffocated the kid with making sure that nothing could get near them, that I overeducate them about the horrible things in the world that could get them. It's like, no, you can't do that to a child. That's terrible. So I'm glad that I didn't. I have no regrets about my choices. I was 50 years old by the time I decided I'll make a really good mom. So when I turned 50, I was like, right now, I am a good mom. I could be a really good mom at 50. But who has the energy? Oh yeah, okay. You've seen it all. Uh, Now see, when I was in school, I'm not sure how old you are, but I'm 71, going on 72, as one of my friends here reminds me. I'm sorry, the not me is. Oh, you would not have. Right, yeah, definitely not. Oh, I know. When my mom was pushing me to get pregnant, which turned out not to be possible anyway, I made sure it wasn't possible, but it's dubious whether it would have been possible anyway. I will. 52. Oh, a spring chicken. But you know what I mean by 50 years old and having a baby. No, at 50, I was confident that I had accumulated enough experience and wisdom, patience, understanding, compassion, and, well, most of all, patience to be a mom. But by that time, of course, I was in menopause. So, well, I went into menopause a year later. So, no, no regrets. No regrets. But what I was getting at is, okay, when I was in 8th grade, we were observing learning disabilities. But unless it was really overt, people weren't paying attention to learning disabilities. There was the obvious hearing test, basic vision test, but nothing for dyslexia. So a lot of people went undiagnosed and just had a lot of trouble without knowing what was going on. And there were some other learning disabilities I can't remember. But it's like they were not diagnosed properly, and also kids learn to fake things for a while. As you know, you can get away with bullshitting even as a child, and the adults around you believe that you are achieving something or perceiving something correctly when you're not. Yeah. Well, see, I haven't even done that. I told my mom that when my sisters had kids, I'll be the auntie. And I said, I'll be that crazy aunt, all right? I'll be the one that, well, kind of like Penny was telling, I'll be the crazy aunt to your baby. The one that teaches them to cuss and tells them what a nerd their mom was. I have math dyslexia. Sorry, half the word is cut off because of the stupid heart at the bottom of my chat. I definitely have that with numbers. I'm always reversing them, but I discovered that I also have a level of it in my regular reading as I've gotten older. I was an avid reader, I mean voracious, as a child, and all through my teens and 20s, 30s, around, I say, it started to slack off a bit around 35, somewhere in there. But that's when I started going through a divorce and all that. So um, distractions. I did still read. Matter of fact, that was when I discovered Good Omens, one of my favorite books ever. Um, but yeah, things started tapering off a bit because I only had so much time, and yeah, life was just very much going a bit of a uproar. I had to work two jobs, singing and whatever else I could get. Um, so yeah, those were more tumultuous years, so I didn't do as much book reading, and that was way pre-internet. Yeah, I love being an auntie. I love being an auntie, but aunties often are forgotten. And like I've got one nephew. The only time I ever hear from him, and I haven't in years now, um, if he needed something, and like a guitar. So, but his younger brother, he's just adorable. So yeah, we still see each other now and then. Yeah, Good Omens. Amazon turned Good Omens into a movie, and then they did a sequel. But unfortunately, Neil Gaiman couldn't keep his dick in his pants, and scandal erupted and interfered with the third final book of the trilogy. And after dumping him, and they got somebody else who was working with them, they decided to take the whole season and turn it into one and a half hour movie, which I think is supposed to come out sometime this year. Who knows? But I love that book. Um, and of course, it is controversial, but now I got rid of Amazon Prime, and it's the only way you can see Good Omens. But the book is, you can still buy it, and I have probably my third copy on my bookshelf. Because that was one I liked so much, I gave it away a couple times. Oh, also, Childhood's End by Arthur C. Clarke. Some early sci-fi that's very relevant to today, um, on a spiritual level, not political. I hope so. I hope so. See, Good Omens was originally written by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman invented the latest reworking of the Sandman comics, and he created a cool chick, Death, where um, when Death is talking in Terry Pratchett's books, you know it's Death because it's all caps. Death always talks in all caps, and yet somehow thunderous and yet silent. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Well, I love the book, and I was surprised but glad that they came up with a sequel. And it turned out that before Terry passed away from Alzheimer's, they had discussed making a series, not TV series, but writing another book or two to round out the story. And I think that in the second part they were extremely bold, but they need to wrap it up in a good way in the third, because leaving it where they left it is wrong. I feel that all of it is like, nope, you can't leave it here because that looks like, no, we can't let that happen. But because of everything that's going on right now, it's really interesting to see what they come up with. But I was, like I said, really disappointed in Neil Gaiman. Um, it's like, how come all these people that come up with some really great creative ideas turn out to be scuzzballs? It's like, oh, not another one. Yeah. See, it's one of those things, the second one left off where it could be left that way, but disappointingly so, I feel. And I don't want to give anything away because it was a startling and surprising turn. And but it just worked. I mean, it was like, well, of course, this is obvious. You can see there by their relationship as it's developing where this is going. But when it got there, the end was like, okay, well, that's it, but it's not the end of the story. It's got to go the next chapter. And when it didn't go right into the next chapter, I was pissed off. Okay, let me put it this way. It's kind of biblical. The, the book begins with the day before Armageddon. So it's, or so many days to Armageddon. I have to look at the book. I can't remember. It's like kind of countdown to Armageddon. And then Armageddon. But if it goes with the second book and the where it left off after the second story, it would be kind of anti what the whole thing was about to start with. It would become more in line with the Bible, which is not appropriate for the story. So leaving it where it left off was like, okay, I can see where you can leave this, but it's not okay. It's like they definitely meant for this to be wrapped up, and it's not. And the ideas. I mean, even me just sitting there as a fantasy writer, thinking about how they could do the third story, I found myself getting really excited with all the potential. There's so much potential. So yeah, they promised, but you know, Bezos, who knows? They promised it would be true to the story and a good ending, but without Gaiman to do the writing for an entire 6 episodes, they were just going to bring it down to a movie size. I don't know what to expect with that. This is why I like being my own person, my own writer. I like fantasy because although I use science fiction, well, no, I use actual science. I do the research to see, is this feasible? Is this possible? But then I have areas where there are no rules. Well, there are rules, but only rules that are appropriate for that spot, you know? So everything's got its own rules. Everything's got its own rules. I'm consistent within all the rules, and put that way. But I have to have the science. It doesn't feel right if it's, you have to make up things, yes, because I'm actually going to another planet. So yeah, I've got to make some stuff up. But I want it to be accurate as possible, even with fantasy. So it's been really fun using AI to do some of my research, because I needed to know what it would look like to watch the sun go down on Mars. What colors would be in the sky if it had a breathable atmosphere. So I had to take the planet as it was, and what do they call it, like when you go back, reconstruct it, and teach AI the history of the planet so it knows what to show me. So it was interesting. But I like not having boundaries other than the scientific ones. But the fantasies, the stories, it's a fun part. But yeah, Good Omens definitely feels unfinished after part 2, which is strange, because after part 1, you could have left it. Just leaving it at the end of at the first book did me for 20 years. I mean, I wasn't expecting, I wished for more, but I wasn't expecting another entry into the universe there because of the death of Terry Pratchett. What else did he wrote The Color of Magic. I think that was the first one I read of his, because it came, I had signed up for one of those book clubs, so I was enrolled in the science fiction book club. And I was so glad I did. I got exposed to so much great writing. And I would not have known about all of those writers if I wasn't getting books full of their stories. So it was a great education. That yellow's really coming across as like gold. Some orange. Underground Comics. Oh yeah. Is that what you were gonna do a storyboard for? Excuse me again. Doc, you got some of your animation training through Disney, didn't you? Not that deep. I sold animation or animator supplies when they were doing things with the acrylic cell paint. I forget that they actually had a name, cell something. Anyway, very large range of colors. So I knew how it was done, and one of the people that worked at Disney showed me how it was done, just so I could have a better understanding of what I was selling. I played with it just to get a feel for the paint and the material. That's as far as I went. I wasn't interested in animation. A tech school called Dave's School. Dave's School on Universal Studio Lot. Oh, California. I wasn't that far from Universal Studio, but I only went there for a concert. Fly like an eagle to the sea. Fly like an eagle, let my spirit carry me. I want to fly. Steve Miller Band. Florida. Oh, that's right. There's a Universal Studio in Florida. I never went there. Was that around Orlando? In Orlando. Nope. Flew in and out of Orlando, but that's it. I went there to go to the villages where all the old people live. That's ugly. All right, what can I do to make that look like something fun? Let's see. Today I sent her a palm tree. Monday or Wednesday I sent her just a couple of trees. Oh yeah, I'm building a cat. That's right. Ta-da! We're gonna cover up that yellow is just too lemony yellow. Disney. Oh yeah, right. I guess not so much anymore because of their war with the governor. Governor objecting to their wokeness. What do you mean you want equal rights for everybody, even gay people? God. Wait until they find out that they've been gay. Or will be. Oh dear. Huh. That's weird. That's strange. But Florida is pretty strange, I found. I don't get a whole bunch of their street names and stuff. A million different lakes and south and lake north, east, west. I mean, what? Do you not have just a straight street address? It's a strange place. Everywhere I drove outside of those areas developed for the country club set seemed poor as hell. All right. I think I tried this yesterday. It did not work all that well. I'm going to try it again. I have to let them dry here. Yeah, we'll just let this dry. Yes, yes, yes. My friend who's in Arizona now, she went to college there, and when she would tell me what was going on and everything was peach, it's like, how do you find your way around town? Peach Square, Peach Court, Peach Lane, Peach Street, Peach South. I mean, it's like, what the hell? Georgia peaches are tasty, but so are the ones we grew in North Carolina and South Carolina. But yeah, I remember when she was going to college there, they had a blizzard in Georgia. And she was from New York. She was used to snow, driving in it, shoveling in it, all that. She said, but they didn't have any plows. They did not know what to, the city was completely shut down. Well, they're famous for their peaches, the Georgia peach. But it's not actually a Georgia peach. I mean, they are peaches grown in Georgia, but I don't think that's the name of the peach. If you were going to go grow it, you needed a proper name. Well, there are worse things that they could take pride in. Peaches aren't so bad. And I remember the Georgia peach thing had its heyday apparently, because in North Carolina we had some signage along the roads that was painted directly on wood and out there fading and all that about so many miles to Georgia for their peaches. It's like, what? We're out in the middle of nowhere. So it was funny, but it was a big industry. It still is, I guess. Does Orlando have things like Goofy Lane, Mickey Canal? How long did you live in Florida? We'll put this in for now. I don't like that, and I don't like this. I'm going to check it off. I had a lovely meal before coming here, so I'm in no rush. I won't be making dinner since the big meal I just had. to do something better than that. Oh God, is it time to start making butterflies again? 4 years? Not long enough. Where'd you go from Florida? You've been around the country like me, haven't you? I think 6 years in Rhode Island was the shortest shortest amount of time I spent in a state. 6 years? Oh no, then in Pennsylvania, that was 3 years? Oh Lordy, yeah. They usually do that way, the other way around, go from Buffalo, New York down to Florida. What got you up to Buffalo? Did you have to spend a winter there? And people think they know snow in New York until they go upstate. Like, oh, you get feet, you measure in feet up here. I had an idea. I'm not sure it's a good idea, but I had one. First idea, get this out of my way. And you. And you. Oh. Yeah, it's usually, it takes a while to find out you're dating a demon. They're so angelic to begin with. Now see, I did not know how crazy my husband was. Because he confessed his erratic behavior was due to taking steroids for his bodybuilding. Well, that's it, Maui. That's how we learn. We try to make a relationship work. We don't know what it takes to make a relationship work if we didn't have good examples. So if you match up with someone who is living in their own distorted version of reality and yours doesn't match, it's never going to match. But we try. I mean, I stayed with Glenn 8 years longer than I should have because I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Now he wanted help, and then I couldn't walk out on somebody who needed help. That'd be like kicking a puppy. So I stayed. I didn't know that was a mistake until it was 8 years. When, I wish I knew this then. And by the way, at least 50% of the calls I got as a psychic was about relationships and why aren't they working, or most often they ended and they want them back. And I got calls from just as many men as women. when it came to relationships, which surprised me because in practical terms, when I did readings in person, it was absolutely mostly women. Very, very rarely did a man request a reading from me. I did them, but nowhere near like the number of women. Relationships, being human is tricky. There's so much to learn, and you can't focus on everything, and you can't do everything. So it behooves us to focus a little bit better on what we really need and want. But again, when you're young, you're learning. It's not optional. You breathe, you're going to come into some circumstances that's going to show you what kind of breathing you prefer. Inhaling a sweet fragrance or a sour one. And until you've had that sour and the sweet experiences, you've got no basis for comparison. You don't know what crazy is until you're living with it. But even then, you can wonder if you're the one that's crazy until you see normal and you go, oh, wait a second, you mean it's supposed to be like that? So it's not me. I'm out of here. But, you know, you've got to go through stages to get to that. We very frequently, when we're in love or care about someone, believe that we could fix them. Can't fix people. You can help people if they are seeking help, if you're the right one. Oh, let's go. We'll do orange cat. So much easier. Orange. So how much rain did you get, Maui? You finally got some. She looked like that. She looked like a clown with a knife. And how long did it take for you to figure that one out? I pegged my husband for a narcissist early, but the other behaviors made me contradict or doubt that, especially because I'm not a professional psychiatrist. Yeah, it was pretty remarkable to find out how fooled I'd been, because he was something called a vulnerable narcissist, where they seem like normal and even self-effacing, and they're down on themselves, and they cry a lot. It's like, what? Well, I can't say that about Glenn. Although he could look really good if he wanted to, because he was a good-looking man. He resisted society stuff, you know. It took me a while to get him to wear frigging underwear. Ah, yeah, yeah. Glenn was one person, and he changed when we moved to North Carolina, and we were actually isolated. I just did not notice the downside early because I was very happy. I loved being isolated. I wanted that. I waited my entire life to get to be on a farm out in the country. And yeah, I was extremely happy. So I didn't catch on right away. Because narcissists, one of the things they do is they isolate you. They don't want anybody else's opinion, especially of them, to enter the picture or have your attention, because they're the ones that want all your attention. Now, had I been less of an isolationist personally, I probably would have bumped into somebody who recognized that behavior as being very narcissistic. It all made sense later, but at the time, you know. Oh, boy. I was mommy. He referred to me as his left brain. And when he was going through a certain stage, I was all right with it, just as a shortcut to explain to doctors why he insisted I be in the room with him. But later it became more of a, it's like, wait a minute, this is just an excuse so you don't have to think for yourself. You want me to do all of the figuring, and you can just sit around and do your thing. Well, until the last 2 years, which is why I think he decided I was a bitch. Because the last 2 years, it was like, I cook 3 times a day. If you want a night snack, go make it. And he had to actually learn how to make a stupid breakfast sandwich at 48 years old. So yeah, live in line. I mean, I would not trade what I experienced. Oh yeah, you can't do that. I did not do that. But part of my technique was getting the hell away from what he was seeing as his problem. Like, he had a lot of mommy issues, so he needed to get away from mommy. And I thought, hey, well, once you're away from mom, hopefully things will improve in your little head. It did for a while, and then that's it. You can only entertain these people for so long. But I don't, like I said, everything I learned from that marriage, including the breakup, which taught me a lot about myself, I would not want to erase it. I don't want to sit and reminisce or anything like that. But I wouldn't want to just like eliminate it. I had wonderful dogs. I had some good neighbors. I had made some friends. I had some wonderful times with and without him. So I would not erase it. But having done it once, I don't need to do it again. Okay, the eyes have to wait. We have to wait until tomorrow because otherwise it's all going to just bleed. Go let it dry. This will be a cat sitting. I'll probably stick a butterfly in there. Of course, this is for Gloria. She did not have a cat in this building, but she loves animals, and her big thing is butterflies. Loves butterflies. You see, butterflies are transitional creatures. They symbolize so many things. One of the things that they symbolize is death. So the shedding of the body, the physical body, and just being the free spirit. So when Gloria wanted butterflies, I was kind of feeling weird about that. It's like, you just got diagnosed with stage 4 bone cancer, and if butterflies are not what I'd want to be looking at right now, because to me that means getting ready to let go. But for her, it's, I think, more springtime, so that's why I do the flowers and kitty cats. So the last 2 I sent her this week, I did not write notes on the back of them because I know she's going to have them sitting in a window and you can see right through them. This one I will turn into I'll write in the back of it instead of a separate piece of paper. So that'll save me some time. Okay. It is 6:10. Oh my goodness. I'm going to have to come back to this tomorrow. Obviously we need things to dry in stages again. But tomorrow I'm also hoping, if we've got good lighting, I will get back to work on my experiment and we can see if I can get the flowers to hold their shape when I attach them to the canvas. Where is it? Where the hell did I put it? Are you in here? No, you're not. Those are all the parts. I can't believe I misplaced that canvas. That's impossible. Oh no, I remember now. There it is. I pressed it. I pressed it to see if I could get some of the curve of the board out. See how it, once it's been saturated, it tends to, it looks like I got a little bit of improvement. I sprayed the back of it with plain water and then put it in the press. So tomorrow we're gonna play with this some more, and this. Oh, you know, I've been playing with this string and I don't know what it's from. It's nylon, like fishing line, lightweight fishing line. And I don't know why it's just loose here. I wasn't using it in this project. I don't know where to put it. Well, I guess we're gonna leave that for tomorrow. All right. So far, this is my favorite. It's got the best shape. It looks pretty on the canvas. It looks floaty. This was too much paint, and I tried to prevent the blue from going into the center. It did not work. Here it is with yellow. I did not like that either. Our original one is very soft, smaller, but way lighter in color. This is more of the delphinium blue. And this is oversized, but it shows how I made this. I put the tweezers in the center of the wet paper and twisted and let it dry that way. So we will see tomorrow. This one's also nice, even though I did not put any paint on the inside yet. But we can, or I could. Thank you. Well, you know, it's an experiment before I hit the giant canvas over here. If I heard that after all the months of work, I would get very upset with myself and probably a little depressed. It wouldn't last long because that's not what I'm about, but it would not be the greatest feeling. Oh, that's another light one. Yeah, I like the look of those. And this, I don't know. Well, we'll see which ones work the best so I can make more of the ones that work the best. I like the look of this also because it's more transparent in the center. I don't know if that's showing up very well. It lets more light through the center. My goal, if I can accomplish it, is to get the shape, the general shape, coat it. Now, if I had an airbrush, I would use an airbrush to put a clear coat on it and make it stay solid in that shape. But I don't have an airbrush, which means I've got to use a hairbrush. And it's really easy to put too much stuff on because this paper is so absorbent. Oh, like I said, we will see. We'll play with this tomorrow. I will try to be here much earlier. Yeah, that was an easy flower to make, but I think putting some indentations on it and making it look more like 3 petals, I think that's the better choice. I like that one better. No, we'll practice. I mean, I'd like this to come out neat, so I can give it away. But if I botch it, I'm not going to be devastated. This is my learning tool. These are supposed to be the stalks. If you've ever looked at delphinium, the main stalk has well, these kinds of extensions. They're lighter weight, and the flowers on the end of that. So it's very floaty looking because it's held on by a very little thread. So I thought, if I have these flowers kind of like they're caught up by the air, like a breeze, I like that better than having them fixed in a formal plant pattern. We want them to be more wild looking. Also, I will have to have a different kind of flower so I can get more than one kind of flower in here. So we'll have delphinium looking. I'm not sure what the other will be. But it'd be nice to have something a little bit pinkish. So we'll have the primary, the yellow background, blue and pink, and the green to bring it together. All right, I will go now. I've been up since very early. Before I even took my shower, I made more of my sesame stuff. This is all the little pieces. This time, I did it like I did a while ago with ginger. Crystallized ginger root. It's very different. Okay. Today is going to be a good day. A really good day. And tomorrow will also be a really good day. By the way, that motivation subliminal I sent you, it's only an hour in the background. I listened to it 2 times this week or 3 times this week. It's helpful. It got my ass out of bed. I'm looking, I can't just tap away. I've got to find my emotes. There we go. Aloha. Jess, I hope you're able to do your side gig tomorrow. But if not, enjoy a cozy day at home. I'm hoping for snow. But we just are too close to the ocean where we get warmer temperatures and coming up from below us, and then the cold stuff comes down, and somehow we're left out of the mix. One way or the other, I'll be here tomorrow. Because another thing I have to do, and I'm going to do it on this size paint, I've got to do that painting for Annie's book. And I don't want to let myself forget about it because I'm probably going to want to try it a few times to find one I really like. But I will see you tomorrow if you're around. In the meantime, make it a great rest of the day.